Okay, well, now this is a lesson that came from the title of the email. I was going to do a variation on A Tale of Two Cities, um, A Tale of Two Middles, but ended up not doing that. But then I just suddenly had this feeling about the idea of the two middles and, had a light bulb moment. Often I ask people where do they feel their sense of their middle, when they come to see me. And often the sense of the middle is in a different place to where their actual middle is, in the center of the pelvis. And, so the body image, it shifts and changes with our states of mind. And often when we're, stressed or, too much on, we'll tend to lift our center of gravity. Everything sort of gets lifted up into the other body, into the upper body. But, the more stressed you are, the more extreme that can become. And for many, due to our culture, it's very easy for many people to have a raised center of gravity all the time because modern life is so challenging to negotiate. And, it's funny, there was a time when it was logical to have the center of gravity right in our chest, right around where the heart is. That's when we're in the womb. When we're in the womb, we have tiny arms and legs, and a massive head and smaller body. And the center of our body is in the ribcage, right round the heart. And so you measure from the skull to the to the base of the pelvis is in there. And if you look at the movements we're doing when we're in the womb, we're moving our spine like this and side to side, and it's similar in a way to we're in this aquatic environment. We're really like a fish. We have similar body plan at that stage and move in that way. And then as we grow and our limbs resume their full length, the center of gravity drops down into the middle of the pelvis. And it's comforting in the womb. It's lovely in the womb. So I'm wondering when I'm stressed, when I'm, trying to avoid what I have to do or something, and I'm running around and doing distractive behaviors, whether I'm actually trying to or looking for the comfort that I felt in the womb by lifting my center of gravity up that way. Anyway, it's quite an interesting way to consider moving from there. And I found this lovely way of actually sensing or connecting or differentiating the two centers using the knees and the elbows. The upper limbs, they're very interesting, often hidden from our awareness, because often we're expressing our tension through there. We're expressing our stress, tightening up in the thighs and in the arms, pulling everything into the middle of our body to protect ourselves. And so it's easy just not to tune into it. So often I'll find myself, if I was doing stretching or yoga or something where I'd be doing a forward bend, and hamstrings have always been fairly tight for me. I had leg irons as a child because I was so pigeon-toed, and it's given me plenty to work with. But often I'd go to do a forward bend, and I'd feel this tension in the back of my legs, and my attention would go down to the knees, and to the lower legs. I'd feel the restriction there, and it's almost like I wasn't really able to tune in to what was happening right around the thigh. And it's interesting. In fact, I'm going to start sharing my screen now because, yep. I'll come back to that. It's interesting. If you look at the whole body, if you look from the head down to the pelvis, you can see around here, that's the middle of that. And I find often, many people when they come, they're usually imagining from their head to their knees. When people have, they come to see me because they have pain issues, often they have the center of gravity up here. But, when people are really stressed, it comes right up into the chest here. But clearly you can see from the feet to the head, that's the center of gravity here. That's the middle. And movement's much more efficient if we move from here. But this relationship between the upper leg, upper arm and upper leg bones and the pelvis and the shoulder girdle is really interesting how they connect. Because, we've got two bones here and two bones down here, then this small collection of bones. And the movement becomes more differentiated through here. There's so many ways you can twist the wrist here or, adjust the position of the fingers and the hands to, really delicately focus where you're going to be moving. Whereas in the arm here, it's facing forward this way and, it rotates in here, but it's along one shaft. You can rotate this shaft by rotating the shoulder, but essentially force is expressed through this bone, in a very powerful way. Same thing with here. It's one bone with muscle right around it. Whereas down here it gets more delicate. So it's really useful to think here, to think of the shaft through here and the way it wraps into the pelvis and the rib cage. And, when we're looking at the upper arms and the upper legs and the torso, it's those classical sculptures of a torso that you see, no head often, and just the, just the upper arms, the upper legs and the trunk. There's a lot of power through here. Let's go down here. No. No, I don't need to say that. Yeah, these are all Thomas Meyer's illustrations here from his book Anatomy Trains. This is the deep front line. But consider all this muscle through here, connecting the upper thigh onto the, from the front onto the pelvis here, and, wraps right around the front of the pelvis and goes along the spine right up to the head here. It's the deepest layer of muscle right through. That's the front of our back. It includes the diaphragm. And, this is a representation of muscles that are connected via a fascial network. So you have these lines of force that extend all the way through the body. And there's one here for the arms. So this is from the legs. And I'm going to draw this connection between the legs or the feet and the head today, and the arms and the pelvis. Now, clearly, the spine is our axis, head, neck, and spine here. And the limbs, they're an extension of that whole axis. And the limbs move in opposition, as we've been exploring all this year, and that's really important. But there is this fundamental relationship between the legs and the head in the it's our height. And the arms, they're an expression of width. The hands are facing, if someone just lies there, this is the way the hand falls, not like, it doesn't fall out like that. That takes, a bit more effort to do that. It falls here. It's an expression of width, and the connection of the muscle goes all the way through from the pelvis up to the head here. But it's this connection down into the pelvis that's really important, and we're going to explore that today. And I just had a really good insight on that just about 20 minutes ago too, which I'm adding to the Tuesday lesson, which is good. Now this is from the arms point of view. Now notice the deeper part, see what he calls the deep front line, and then you've got the superficial line on this side. The deep part contains the muscles in in the upper arms, and the superficial part, the part over the top, that is, the layers over the top there, and the in the lower arm here. But you can see that it connects from the head, right down to the pelvis, the arm. So it's like a wing is how to think of the arm. And the rib cage I'm going to invite you to consider today is like a, because there's this direct link between the lower legs and the pelvis, which is where our movement is much more powerful if it's centered in the pelvis. And there's a greater distance from the arms down to the pelvis than there is from the knees to the pelvis. But the rib cage is like this spreading mechanism that, funnels the force down into here, into the pelvis. And of course, the trunk, the connection right around the body is, so important, with 4 layers of muscle around the body. These muscles going in every direction, wrapping around the torso. So we have this ability to twist and turn and bend sideways and move in these ways. And the nature of the joints is really interesting. So I have highlighted here the capsule. So, when we're looking at this, it's worth remembering with all the joints, they're filled with fluid. And they have ligaments in there and little bits of cartilage that, provide a sort of a cushion. But they're fluid-filled, smooth faces. And the surface of these bones, is covered in this cartilage, this really, it's like teflonated. And look at the shape of the upper arm bone. You notice it's facing forward. You can see the inside and the outside of it. And the lower arm bone fits on, the main bone, which is actually the smaller bone in the arm, sort of wraps around here. And that's where, when I say the main bone, I mean, let's just go over to the other one. When you exert force through the arm, how can I get this to do that? Yeah, that's it. You push a wall or push a car, it happens through this little bone here. You can see there's this direct connection right into the center of that elbow there. And that comes right up into the shoulder girdle. It's the opposite of the legs, because in the legs it's the one that's the big toe, the tibia here. Oh yes, good. And the tibia here has this connection with the big toe. Oh, is that good? Oh no, I've just lost the tibia. So damn. Show. The knee is similar to the elbow in that it's also oops, that's what I wanted. It's a saddle joint, it's called, and you have, this is the meniscus, this little bit of connective tissue that sits on top of the cartilage in here and provides this cushion. Let's just move it now. And when you look at the underside, you've got these 2 curved surfaces here. And you can see how the other leg fits onto it. That's why when you lock your knees, it's not very good. When people lock their knees, they sort of push this back and increases the surface area here on the front of the knee. And what we want is that it's distributed evenly along that curve. And if you keep your knees unlocked and your hips and ankles free, your knees can remain soft and free. But it's this sense of right around here. It's how the muscle wraps around here and onto the base of the pelvis here. The sacrum and the ischium. And the arm, how it connects into the shoulder. You know, now we're looking at your shoulder first. The shoulder, you know, see how the collarbone, how the shoulder blade, how much it moves. And even the collarbone. This is where the skeletal connection of the shoulder is to the rest of the torso. This is just held on by muscle, powerful muscles. You know, right around the rib cage here. And you can see there's this ball and socket here. And it spins around in there. And of course the shoulder has a much greater range of motion. So it's a smaller socket in here. No. Yeah, opposite direction. You can see all the muscles that are connecting the shoulder to the ribs, you know, serve to twist it and pull it and move it in these various directions. But, you know, notice the elbow here. It's still facing forward as we're just moving that, well, we're moving the shoulder back now. Immediate rotation. See, notice the way this bone here is moving, the upper bone. There we are. How it rotates in here. The whole shaft of this bone is moving. You know, so the elbow is really solid. That's why we support ourselves on this. And notice that the elbow, the part that you lean on, is actually this bone here, the ulnar. So it's part of your lower arm that we pivot on. We'll talk more about the forearm in the next couple of weeks, and certainly a lot next term. But, you know, the plan with the muscle system in the body is that, you know, from muscles from the lower arm connect up onto the upper, and from the upper arm connect down onto the lower arm. So these are the ones that flex it, moving it forward. And notice it's connecting onto both of these bones here. And often we can just be moving the elbow here, but still there's going to be this movement through here. Subtle movements all the way through, and actually the shoulder will move as well. Extension. And now from behind. So, you know, to think right around this bone here, the muscles right around here, and then this, well, rotator cuff is the name of one of the groups of muscles that connect the arm onto the shoulder here. It's from right around the yeah. So people get problems when in their arm when this bone doesn't move. They're often fixing their shoulder blade here. So if we can allow this to be free, if we can allow this to be soft, then it's much easier to move the shoulder. Now I'm just going to look at the leg. See these muscles coming right down to the lower leg. This is extension. You know, it's attaching to the front and the back of the pelvis. And not the whole muscle doesn't have to function. You can just have parts of it functioning. And that allows us to get all the twists and turns. It's not just one big block. Particularly with the sensitive ones, like the larynx, the vocal folds, or the eye, they can move tremendously in all these subtle ways. Oh yeah. And rotating the lower leg here, even you notice that the muscles come right up onto the pelvis here. I'm showing you these pictures really just to give you a sense of what we're moving here, and the sense of the connection through to the front and the back. And this gets really muddy. It's really hard for many people to sense it, to get a clear sense of what's actually going on in there. Where's the one I wanted to show you? Flexion. Flexion. To get a sense of this, the movement in this socket here too. It's a much more solid connection because, the way we stand here. But, it's interesting, when we're growing, it's the arms that get developed first. Let's just leave that. We look, here's this, body plan, center of the body round about here. Then as we grow, it starts to shift down. And, we lift ourselves up onto our elbows first. And, then the hands, we roll ourselves, get control, and then we learn to sit up. So we develop the arms first. We're still walking on the knees here, and the hands are developed. And then, we pull ourselves up, and then we begin to use the feet and the legs. So it takes longer to develop this, which is why I think it happens in this particular way. It's different to a quadruped where all the forelimbs are, much more even. So we're going to be exploring this connection with the arm down into the pelvis today in particular. That's probably where I find one of the major problems with having a high center of gravity that influences what you're doing with your arms. Now that's probably enough. Too much talking. But the pictures are interesting to look at. And, just to give you a sense of considering your arms and your legs. So look, could you lie down on the ground? Lie down on the ground on your back. Much simpler lesson than last week. Let's see. Oh yeah. That's better. Just get myself set up here. Yeah, good. So lie here on your back and consider where you feel your middle. Not where you know your middle may be, but or where the actual middle is supposed to be, but where you feel it now. You know, half your length, or where you sense your middle. And notice how you move as you breathe. And could you try our test movement for today? Could you roll up to sit and notice how, what happens at the middle? So roll up to sit. Rolling over to the side and up to sit a few times. And notice what happens, how you actually do that. Go in each direction. And, pay attention to your knees and elbows. Do you feel that they're pulling somewhere? Do they pull in to that place that you're feeling as the center? And often the center is higher than it needs to be if we're stressed. For instance, consider, the base of your rib cage, around your solar plexus. Could you sort of consider that your middle? And when you roll up to sit, could you sort of pull your arms into that direction, in toward the solar plexus? Because you press down into the floor on your elbow probably to lift yourself up. What happens if you do it from the solar plexus there? You pull the knees and the elbows into there. And then leave that. And now sense your length from your head down to your feet. And take a moment to get the felt sense of that. The feeling of your pelvis on the ground. And now could you once again roll up to sit, but this time draw the knee and the elbow, feel them pulling toward the pelvis. Come up a couple of times to each side and feel the knee and the elbow pulling toward the pelvis. Does that make a difference? What is the difference in quality? Well, finish the one you're on and just leave it. We'll come back to that later and see if we can refine this a little bit. So sense your contact with the ground and the length of each upper arm and each upper leg. From the hip to the knee and from the shoulder to the elbows on each side. And roll them side to side. And notice how those shafts of bone rotate. Just an easy distance, so don't stretch it. Just only go and see how are they different. What's the comfortable range of movement? And you could notice, just rest there, notice in how the elbows and the knees lie on the ground. Where are they facing? Now lift your right knee up over your chest. Interlace your fingers and hold on to that knee. And, you do that in whichever way is comfortable. Maybe you need to bend your left leg, but, have it straight if you can. And just notice the feeling in the upper leg. You're holding on to the lower leg actually around the front of if you're holding around the front of the knee, but just rotate the skin there. Use your hands to rotate the skin and muscle and get a sense of the roundness of the knee, and all the structures within it. Can you feel that down into the pelvis, into the pelvis? Well, leave that. It's still holding the knee. Move that right knee in a small circle. Moving the right knee in a small circle. So your knee is describing a circle. And the hip is probably making a smaller circle. It's like if this was like a cone, the knee, the hip would be like the point of the cone and the knee would be describing the circular base. And once again, make it a small movement, like an easy movement. Don't do anything that requires effort. Because you can feel the movement in the upper leg. Maybe you can sense right around the upper leg as well, and right around the hip. Because remember, it's joining into the side of your pelvis. And notice what's happening in your elbows and your upper arms as you're moving the knee in a circle. How are they moving? Is this creating a circle in the shoulder girdle? Well, leave that. Let your arm and legs down. Notice the feeling there now. Once again, lift the knee up, the right knee, hold it with your hands. Move it side to side. And in fact, could you roll over onto your left side? Roll onto your left side. And could you hold your right knee in the left hand? Have the left hand above the left elbow, so the left hand is pointing up to the ceiling. And you have your right knee just sitting in the left hand in a way that the weight of the knee goes straight down to the elbow. You're lying on your left side. Yeah, and you can have your upper hand just resting on top of the knee, or you could even let it hang down behind the knee, whatever is comfortable for you. And in this position, can you roll your knee in a circle? Move your knee in a circle, parallel with the ground. So it's going forward and down and up slowly, slowly. Make it as easy as you can. So, there's this, the weight of the leg is going down through the left arm to the left elbow. So, you've got a little cone going between the top of the knee and the left elbow. The left elbow is describing this circle. And then maybe there's also a circle in the right hip, the left hip. As you're moving your right knee in this circle, the right hip is going in this circle. And so that's like, two cones, or the base of two cones that end up down at the left hip there on the ground. Feel the way that's moving. You can change direction. You stay within the comfortable range. Very important to stay within the comfortable range. But notice the shaft of the upper leg. It's a bit like a piston on a merry-go-round. And we've been thinking of the knee. Can you think now of that the knee is moving the right hip? So think of the circle the right hip is doing. Yeah, nice. You can feel right around all the muscle in the upper leg bone. Sense that. What's happening through there? Passively being moved. We'll leave that now. Come back down onto your back and rest. Notice what you feel. Try rolling the legs and arms side to side a little bit. Is there a difference now in the right leg? I'll leave that. Once again, hold on to the right knee. Actually, if you could put your right elbow underneath the right knee, only if that's easy. If it's not, the hands over the top of the knee is fine. You may have to bend your left leg to do that. And once again, roll onto to the left side. Roll from here onto your back, and notice, this right side is shortened, left side is lengthened. And then stay on your left side, and once again have the right knee balancing in the left hand, and move it in a small circle. Notice how that feels now. With the elbow behind the knee here, the right elbow behind the knee, what does that enable you to feel through the whole trunk, the whole head, neck, and torso? you're feeling your head moving in a circle, the whole head, chest and pelvis moving. Well, leave your leg balanced on the left hand, but take your right hand and place it over your head, over the top of your head, so you have your fingers underneath the left temple. And in this position, lift your head up and then let it down. Lift your head up using your arm. Your elbow moves up toward the ceiling and let it come down. Now, of course, you're moving the whole spine here. And feel what's happening through the spine, the way your ribcage moves as you lift your head. But move your head in a circle now. Move your head in a circle. So, forward and then up and then behind you, behind the ribcage and down and forward. Just a smooth, slow circle. And feel what happens through the ribcage and pelvis as you do this. You could even move your elbow, make the elbow move. So you feel the movement in your shoulder girdle on the right. And maybe you notice that your leg is already beginning to move in a circle with this, the right leg. Lovely. Leave that, lie down on your back and rest. Now what do you feel? Gently roll your legs and arms from side to side and notice the feeling in the upper legs and the upper arms and any differences between the left and right side. And then leave that. And once again, hold on to your right knee with both hands and move it side to side. And this time, could you roll over onto your right side? Roll onto your right side and stay there. And place your hand, your left hand, on top of the knee with the elbow toward the ceiling. Just let yourself soften here. And now move your left elbow in a circle. Move your left elbow in a circle. An easy circle, wherever it's easy for you to move. So maybe you're feeling your shoulder blade sliding around the ribs. Think of your elbow like a piston. So the elbow is going forward and the shoulder is the thing that's going round in a circle, moving the elbow forward and back. And then reverse that. Move the elbow in a circle in a way that moves the shoulder forward and back. And then just allow to circulate in the easiest way. In fact, allow this movement to come from the right shoulder so that the left elbow goes forward from the right shoulder. And the left shoulder moves in a circle around the right shoulder. Now what's happening through your pelvis, rib cage and head. Can you feel your right hip moving in a small circle on the floor? Being moved from the right shoulder here. Which is interesting because if the right hip is moving in a circle, how is that influencing the muscle around the right upper leg? Go slowly. Well, leave that, but stay on this side. Place your hand on top of the head once again, the left hand, so that the fingers of your left hand are on the right temple, and lift your head up and down. And feel the movement in the spine here. And now, move your elbow, your left elbow, in a big circle. You can lift your head to do this too, from the right shoulder. So you're lifting the head up, you go back, you lift it up, you move it forward, it goes down and back, and sense the movement right around that shoulder, right around your rib cage. From the elbow, through the rib cage, right around the rib cage and right down to the pelvis. So you now notice the feeling in the right upper leg as you're moving around in this way. And can you let your right leg be completely relaxed? And then leave that. Lie on your back and rest. See, what's the feeling right around that right upper leg now? And your upper arms. Roll that right arm and leg in and out. And think how it connects into the torso there. Well, leave that. Once again, just hold on to the right knee above your chest and roll onto the left side once again. And just move the the right knee in a circle now and just get a sense of how that feels. You know, what do you feel through the pelvis and rib cage and your head? And through the leg, the right leg. You could move your jaw a little side to side feel, you know, as your hip is freeing up. What is happening in your jaw? Lovely. Now leave that, roll on your back once again. Just sense how that feels. Now hold on to your left knee with both hands above your chest. What's the difference here? We've already worked on the right side in that way. You know, so notice how the right side is lying. Try just rotating the skin and fascia around the knee here and leg. You know, and as you relax in the left leg, maybe it would be easier to feel how this rotation influences all the muscle all the way back into your pelvis. Maybe you can also feel the way the shoulder blade on each side is sliding on top of the ribs. Maybe with this sliding of the skin on top of the skeleton in the knee, you can actually sense your whole skeleton shifting around in the suit of skeleton, within the suit of skin. Well, move your knee in a circle now. Left knee in a circle. And, you know, notice what you feel. It's probably quite different to when you did it on the other side. You know, maybe you can already feel that the pelvis is rolling a little bit on the floor. You know, and as your arms are being pulled over to one side and back to the middle, and, you know, maybe your rib cage is being pulled around. Maybe there's even a circle in your head. And that's certainly easier if you're moving in harmony with your breath. Well, move over onto your right side, roll onto the right side and just rest there with your leg balanced in the right hand. And move this left knee in a circle now. Easy circle, easy, you know, wherever is easy for this side. Your left hand can be wherever is comfortable. You know, and as your jaw relaxes, Notice how the rest of your torso can soften. And what that enables you to feel. You know, the movement of the knee, the movement of the hip. Think that you're moving the pelvis in a circle using the knee. So the left knee goes in this circle parallel with the floor, and the hip, the left hip goes in a circle parallel with the floor. And it's like the top of or the base of a cone, and the point of that cone is the right hip in the floor. And that's the thing, as you relax more through the torso, through the trunk, you know, on the floor, as you feel it roll on the floor, you know, does it make it easier to soften through the thigh, or to feel right around the thigh, right around your pelvis? Well, leave that. Roll on your back for a moment and rest. What do you feel here now? See, roll each arm and leg, just a tiny movement, just within their comfortable range, and notice what is shifting. You know, differences between the left and the right. We haven't done that head variation yet. You know, how is that going to influence this movement? Well, once again, lift your knee over your chest and place your elbow underneath the knee, the left elbow underneath the left knee, if you can, only if it's easy, and roll side to side like this, just getting a sense of that shortened left side, lengthened right side as you roll from your back to your knee, and then roll onto the right side again, holding the left knee in the right hand, which is directly above the right elbow. And in this position, move the knee round in a circle with the elbow behind the knee, if that's comfortable. How is this? You know, and as your jaw relaxes, you know, what does that enable you to feel? Now, take your hand out, place it, the top hand that is, leave the left knee balanced on the right hand, and hold on to the over the top of the head to the right side of the temple, the right side of your head. Lift your head up and down. Now just notice as you're doing it on this side, you know, what you can feel about the way the ribs slide over the shoulder girdle on the right. You know, because the shoulder that's against the floor. You're lifting the head. Can you feel the ribs sliding over the shoulder girdle? And move the head in a circle now. You know, move it back behind your rib cage and then up and then forward, just a comfortable distance. But, you know, notice how the rib cage and your pelvis move. because you're moving the spine that connects right through down to the pelvis. You may even find that your left leg begins to move in a circle too. The main thing is just to make it easy, to just make it really small. So it's easy for you to tune in. Very nice. And then leave that. Lie on your back and rest. So you notice the difference that made. Roll your arms and legs once or twice to each side. You notice how the left side moves now, the left shoulder, upper arm. Well, once again, hold your left knee above your chest, just, above the knee will do, and roll onto your left side, roll onto your right side, I should say. Roll onto the right side, support the knee, and move the left knee in a circle. Notice how it is now. And then leave that, come back to the middle, just rest there for a moment. That was the wrong variation. Once again, pick up your knee, the left knee, and roll onto the left side. Roll onto your left side, holding onto the left knee. And place the right hand on top of that knee. And now move the elbow in a circle here. Move the elbow in a circle. Notice where it can go comfortably, the direction of the movement. And now move the shoulder to move the elbow. Think of the direction the shoulder is moving. Round in a circle. How that influences the rest of the torso. And then leave that, stay on this side. Take your right hand and place it over the top of the head, holding onto the left side of your head. And now lift the head up here and down. And just feel, what's going on through the whole torso. Feel how the skeleton slides in the suit of skin here. And then move your head round in a circle. Your elbow round in a circle, and sense what's happening through the whole side. And the feeling, the circle that's also being described in the left hip. And then leave that. Come back onto your back. Now, have your arms sort of down by your side. Could you reach away through opposite arm and leg, reach, in the direction of the feet? Just a tiny movement. Notice one side is lengthening and one side is shortening. Sense that from the perspective of the upper leg and upper arm and how they connect into the torso. And now have your arms out at shoulder height. And could you draw your right knee and right elbow toward each other and then come away, and then roll over to draw the left knee and left elbow toward each other. Go side to side like this, sensing the connection between the knee and elbow via the torso. You can roll a little bit, the other side can move over to support you. Now stay on the left side. And then move the left elbow and left knee away from each other till you roll onto your stomach, up on your elbows. And now move your right knee and right elbow toward each other. Look at the right elbow and knee as they move toward each other. And feel what's happening in the trunk, in the torso. Both as you lengthen out and as the torso lifts away from the floor. You reach away and you feel the ribcage and the pelvis lie there. And in fact, you could roll onto the right side with your arm extended above the head, the leg long, and then roll onto the stomach and draw the right knee and elbow toward each other, and then away and roll onto the side. And then you could bring the right knee and elbow toward each other on the right side, and then lengthen them away, and then roll onto the stomach, and then bring the right elbow and right knee toward each other on the other side. Move side to side like this and feel the contact with the floor of your rib cage as you roll over your rib cage and your pelvis, as your leg and your arm make this circular movement. It's the way your arm and leg rotate that's really interesting. They rotate along with the torso. This shaft of bone, the upper leg and the upper arm, that connect into the pelvis and the shoulder girdle. Rest there for a moment on your stomach. Well, look at your left elbow and left knee. Can you move the left elbow and knee toward and away from each other on the stomach? And feel, what happens through the torso. And how the arm and leg roll. In order to roll, to extend it, you roll onto the left side. And then you come onto the stomach and you move the knee and elbow toward each other. And then you reach away. And notice how the upper arm and upper leg rotate. Yes. And there'll come a point where you'll feel right on your side. And you could easily roll from there. You bring the left knee and left elbow toward each other on the left side, and then you roll over onto your stomach, and then you bring the left knee and left elbow toward each other from there. Go in this full sweep, feeling how your torso rolls on the floor. That sense of connection, the upper limbs into the trunk, and their ability to rotate at the shoulder and the hip. Very nice. And now leave that. Roll on your back and rest. See, now roll your arms and legs. What do you sense right around the arms and legs? And the freedom of movement now. And could we go back and try that test movement that we did earlier on? Think of the connection now between your knees and elbows and your pelvis. Or in fact, reach away with the opposite arm and leg in the direction of the feet once or twice. Just get a sense of the capacity to feel what's going on in the pelvis. And then roll over onto your side and come up to sit. Sensing, the connection of the elbows through into the pelvis. So, you're rolling your pelvis over to the side. And, your upper arm rolls over to the side with it. And there's that sense of the connection between the rolling of the pelvis and the rolling of the upper arm and the movement of your head. You don't even need to use your arm when you get it like this. It's actually, you're just rolling your pelvis. But it's the idea of focusing the energy into the pelvis, through the whole rib cage. So the roundness of your arm, the roundness of the elbow, the roundness of the shoulder, and the roundness of your rib cage, down into the roundness of your pelvis. You can really just, fly up and keep everything open. But leave that now. Oh, actually, before, just try, put your where you had your center of gravity originally. You know, if you had it up at the sternum or if you had it at the navel or above there, and try lifting yourself up to, you know, from where you were doing it before. Can you remember that? So you'd sort of pull the knees and elbows into that higher center of gravity. Try that once or twice, and then go back to trying doing it in the pelvis. The limbs connecting through the pelvis. Lovely. And then lie here and just rest when you've done that. You could roll your legs and arms side to side just a little bit, just to notice how different that is and to sense the pleasure of having the freedom there and the awareness there. You know, notice your length now. Even though we haven't really focused at all on the arms and the hands and the feet, you know, do they feel different too? And sensing the middle of your pelvis roll over onto your side and come up to stand. And just feel how that is. You know how everything can hang now. And you know, as you shift your weight side to side, you could consider the bottom of the upper arms. You know, they're facing forward. Hands turn in, thumbs are forward, but at the elbows, it's, you know, they're facing forward, like the knees. And you know, as you begin to walk, sense how everything can move from the pelvis. And now the arms connect there through the rib cage, through the shoulder girdle and rib cage.